story is not just about him, it is about all of us. Sometimes we live our lives without thinking. We repeat small mistakes every day, and slowly, they grow into big problems. This story will show how awareness, action, and learning can change everything. The man in our story lived like many people do. He worked, ate, and slept, but he did not notice much about life. He did not think about the future. He did not take care of himself. He believed that everything would always be fine. He wanted comfort, easy days, and no challenges. Every day was almost the same. Wake up late, eat quickly, work without focus, go home tired, watch something, sleep, and repeat. At first, this life seemed perfect to him. No stress, no effort, no worry. But slowly, small problems began. He ignored them, thinking they were not important. A missed call, a late payment, a forgotten task. These were small mistakes. But small mistakes repeated every day grow quietly. Like drops of water on a stone, they can slowly make cracks. And one day, the cracks become too big to ignore. The man never thought about the cracks. He believed life would always take care of him. He avoided learning, avoided effort, avoided reflection. He thought, I am fine. I can fix problems later. Life is easy. But life was teaching him a lesson, and he did not notice. One morning, he woke up and felt something strange. A small worry, a small discomfort, a quiet feeling that something was wrong. At first, he ignored it. He drank his coffee, read the news, and left for work as usual. But the feeling stayed. It was a whisper, soft but persistent, saying, "Pay attention. Something is changing." This was the beginning of his journey. The journey that would take him from comfort to crisis, from mistakes to awareness, from regret to hope. It started with a small feeling, almost invisible, but life often begins change in small ways. A whisper can become a voice can become a call, and a call can change everything. This story will show the contrast between two lives. One life is lived without awareness, repeating mistakes, avoiding effort, and ignoring lessons. This life seems easy at first, but slowly it becomes heavy, difficult, and painful. The other life is lived with purpose, with learning, with action. It is not always easy, but it is full of growth, hope, and progress. Small actions every day create big results over time. As you read and listen, notice the small lessons hidden in the story. Each day, the man will face choices. Some choices are easy and comfortable. Some choices are hard and uncomfortable. The easy choices lead to mistakes repeated, problems growing, and regret. The hard choices lead to learning, growth, and hope. This is the central idea. Life is shaped by the small choices we make every day. For English learners, this story is also a practice. Simple words, short sentences, and repeated phrases will help you read, listen, and understand easily. You can follow the man's thoughts, feelings, and actions. You can learn new words about daily life, habits, emotions, and growth. And at the same time, you can learn important life lessons that anyone, anywhere, can use. The man's journey is emotional and human. He will make mistakes, feel regret, and face challenges. But he will also take steps to improve, feel hope, and see results. This story will teach patience, courage, responsibility, and the power of small actions. Every small choice, every repeated habit, and every effort matters. Now notice the first moment when he realizes something is wrong. He is still living his comfortable life, but the first warning is coming. It is quiet at first, maybe a small failure at work, Maybe a forgotten promise to a friend. Maybe a small disappointment he cannot ignore. This moment will start to shake his world, slowly, gently, but surely. In the next part of the story, we will see the man's life of comfort begin to show cracks. The easy life will no longer feel safe. Small mistakes will start to create bigger problems. And the man will begin to realize that awareness, effort, and learning are necessary. This is the point where the journey truly begins. So let's follow the man. Let's notice the small warnings, the small lessons, and the small actions. Let's learn with him, not just about life, but about English. Small steps every day, both in life and in learning, create real progress. And even if lessons come late, it is never too late to change. This is the story of a man who learned important life lessons too late, but learned just in time to change. And his journey will teach all of us something valuable. Start today, notice the small mistakes, learn, act, and grow. The life of comfort. The man lived a simple and easy life, and he believed this was enough. Every day felt soft, slow, and peaceful to him. He liked this feeling because it made him feel safe. He did not think about the future, and he did not think about change. He thought comfort was the same as happiness, and he trusted this idea without any questions. In the morning, he always woke up late. The sun shone brightly through the window, but he stayed in bed a little longer. He enjoyed lying still and feeling warm under the blanket. When he finally sat up, he moved slowly, without hurry, without purpose. He told himself there was no need to rush because his life did not demand much from him. He walked to the kitchen and prepared a simple meal. He ate quietly while looking outside. People walked quickly on the street, carrying bags, wearing work clothes, talking with energy, but he felt no connection to them. He stayed inside, not because he was tired, but because outside life felt too big for him. His own world was small, comfortable, and familiar, and he wanted to keep it that way. Beside his bed, there were books he once bought with good intentions. He said he wanted to learn, to grow, to become better, but he never opened those books. He always found excuses. He said he was not ready today or too tired right now. He believed one day he would feel strong and motivated, but that day never arrived. Still, he told himself there was time. There was always more time. His days looked almost the same. He spent hours on his phone, watching videos, laughing at jokes, scrolling endlessly. It made his mind calm, but it also made him empty. Deep inside, he knew his life was not moving, but he did not want to think about it. Thinking was uncomfortable, and he avoided discomfort in every part of his life. Sometimes he imagined a different life. He imagined reading books, studying new things, learning English, or finding a new skill. The dreams felt nice, but they stayed only in his imagination. He never took the first step. The idea of effort felt heavy, and he wanted light things, easy things, soft things. So he dreamed for a few minutes, then returned to his comfortable routine. When afternoon came, he rested again. He lay on the sofa, closed his eyes, and let time pass. He felt peaceful, but not satisfied. He felt calm, but not proud. He felt safe, but not alive. He did not understand this strange feeling inside him. He only knew something was missing, but he did nothing about it. He waited for life to change, even though he was not changing himself. In the evening, he watched more videos. He said he needed to relax after a long day, even though his day was not long. He said he needed rest, even though he had not worked. He said he deserved comfort, even though he never pushed himself. He was gentle with himself, but too gentle. The softness slowly weakened him without his body noticing and without his heart understanding. He avoided challenges because they felt too big. He avoided studying because it felt too slow. He avoided work because it felt too hard. Each day he chose the easiest path. He believed that as long as he stayed safe, nothing bad would happen. He trusted comfort too much, like a child trusting a soft pillow. But even soft things can become dangerous when we hold them too long. He told himself, everything will be fine. He repeated this many times, but he never asked, why will it be fine? He never questioned his choices. He lived inside a small bubble of ease. He thought the world would adjust to him. He did not see that the world keeps moving forward, and anyone who stays still will slowly fall behind. One morning, something small happened. It was quiet, simple, and unexpected, but it touched him deeply. He received a short message from an old friend. The message said, "I hope you are doing well. You look different these days. Are you okay?" These words were gentle, not harsh, but they hit his heart in a strange way. He read the message again, and again. He felt a small ache in his chest, a feeling he did not understand. He tried to ignore it, but the words stayed in his mind. They followed him through the day like a shadow. For the first time in a long time, he wondered if something was wrong with his life. He looked around his room. He looked at the books he never read, the notes he never wrote, the plans he never started. He touched the cover of a book and felt a sudden sadness. He realized how much time had passed. He realized how still he had been. He realized how far he was from the person he once wanted to be. He walked to the window and watched people again. But this time, he felt something different. He did not feel separate from them. He felt behind them. He saw people growing, moving, improving, and he felt like he was standing in one place while the rest of the world walked forward without him. As night arrived, he sat in silence. The message from his friend echoed softly in his mind. "Are you okay?" The question stayed inside him like a quiet alarm. He knew something needed to change, even if he did not know how. His comfortable life suddenly felt too soft, too slow, too small. And at that moment, his heart felt the first true shake. A small shake, but enough to make him look at his life with new eyes. That tiny moment, that single message, became the first sign that his world was beginning to change, leading him into the next part of his journey. The first warning. The man thought his life was still fine, even after many quiet days that felt the same. He woke up each morning believing he had time, believing nothing serious could ever happen to him. He moved slowly, lived slowly, and made slow choices that did not push him forward. He told himself that every problem could be solved later, that every dream could wait for another day. But deep inside, something in his life was beginning to shift, even if he did not see it yet. The first warning did not come like a loud storm. It came like a small sound in the night, soft but clear. One morning, he opened his email and saw a message about a job he wanted last year. It said the position was filled. He had planned to apply, but he waited too long. He thought he would have more time. When he read the message, his heart felt a short drop, like a small stone falling into water. It was a tiny hit, but it stayed in his mind. He told himself it was no big deal. He said the job was not that important. He said he did not really want it anymore. But the truth was different. He had wanted it. He had dreamed about doing something better, something new. He had imagined himself growing, learning, changing. But he did nothing, and the world moved on without him. The warning was there, but he covered it with excuses. Later that same week, another moment arrived. He met an old friend at a small cafe. The friend looked fresh, busy, and full of life. They talked for a while, and the friend shared stories about new skills he had learned, new habits he had started, and new experiences he had gained. The man smiled and nodded, but inside he felt a strange pain. It was not jealousy. It was the feeling of being left behind. Then came the honest words, the ones he did not expect. His friend looked at him and said gently, "You are the same as last year." The man laughed at first, thinking it was just a light joke. But his friend continued, "You talk the same, you dream the same, you plan the same, but you do not move. You do not try." These words were soft, not cruel, but they hit him harder than he wanted to admit. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. He felt heat rise in his chest. He felt his throat tighten. He wanted to defend himself, to say he was fine, to say he just needed time. But he could not speak. Something inside whispered that his friend was right. Something inside told him that this was another warning. But again, he pushed it away. When he walked home that evening, the city lights felt a little brighter and a little colder. He watched people rushing by, moving with purpose, carrying bags, books, hopes, and plans. He wondered why he did not feel the same energy. He wondered why he always felt like he was waiting for something, even though he did not know what he was waiting for. At home, he sat on his bed and stared at the ceiling. A small voice inside said, "Something is wrong." But he tried to silence it. He told himself it was nothing. He told himself he was just tired. He told himself life always brings small disappointments. But deep down, the warning was growing louder. The next morning, another small sign appeared. He tried to do a simple task at work, something he should have known very well. But his mind felt slow and heavy because he had not practiced, not learned, and not improved in so long. His manager gave him a long look, not angry but concerned. "Are you okay?" the manager asked. "You seem behind on things." Behind. That word stayed in his ears. He heard it again and again, like an echo in an empty room. He remembered his friend's words. He remembered the lost job email. He remembered the quiet feeling in his chest that something was slipping away. That night, he felt a little afraid. He did not like the fear, so he tried to cover it with comfort. He watched videos, ate snacks, and told himself that tomorrow would be different. But he had said the same thing many times before, and every time, tomorrow became another yesterday without change. A small warning had turned into a bigger one. A little lost chance had opened into a wider space of doubt. He felt something inside him trembling, as if his life was trying to speak to him, trying to wake him up. But he still chose to ignore it. He told himself, "Everything will be fine." He had said those words so many times that they no longer meant anything. They were just soft pillows he placed under his fears. One evening, as he walked outside, the sky was painted with gentle colors, orange, red, and gold. The wind felt cool, and the world felt quiet. He thought about his life, about the years that passed so quickly, about the things he wanted but never worked for. A small sadness touched his heart. He felt like someone standing outside a window, watching a life he could have lived. He knew the warnings were calling him. He knew they were not small, but he was afraid of change, afraid of effort, afraid of failing. So he turned away from the thoughts and walked home slowly, pretending everything was normal. But deep inside, he knew something serious had begun. Something was shifting. Something was waking up. And even though he tried to ignore it, the first warning had already changed him. It had shaken the quiet, comfortable world he lived in. As he lay in bed that night, with the lights off and the room silent, the thought returned again. Something is wrong. And this time, he could not fully push it away. This quiet moment, this soft fear, would soon lead him into the next part of his journey, where small warnings grow into bigger truths he can no longer ignore. The slow decline. The man thought life was still safe. He ignored the warnings he had received. He told himself, "Everything is fine. I will fix things later." But little by little, his world began to fall apart. He did not notice it at first. The small mistakes he made every day started to grow. A life that seemed easy and soft was slowly turning into trouble. He was late for work almost every day. At first, it was only a few minutes. Then it became an hour. He was tired, not from work, but from doing nothing. He slept too much. He ate too much. He moved too slowly. His energy disappeared like water through a small hole. He did not care. He told himself, "It is okay. I can rest today and start tomorrow." But tomorrow came, and he did the same again. His health began to fail slowly. He felt heavy. He had headaches, back pain, and a soft, dull feeling in his chest. Doctors told him he needed to exercise, eat better, and rest properly, but he ignored them. "I feel fine," he said. "I will be better soon." But small problems grew. His body was tired, and his mind was tired. He could not feel his strength anymore. At work, he made mistakes. Small mistakes at first. He missed emails. He forgot meetings. He lost important papers. He was careless because he did not plan, because he did not care enough. His boss noticed. He was late. He was tired. He did not care. The boss called him in the office. "You need to do better," the boss said. He promised he would. But he did not change. Tomorrow came, and he repeated the same mistakes. His relationship started to suffer too. Friends stopped calling him. He ignored invitations. He forgot birthdays. When friends tried to help, he brushed them away. "I am fine," he said. But he was not fine. He felt lonely, but he did not know how to fix it. The more he ignored people, the more distant they became. Small actions of care and respect had been lost, and now he felt the cold silence in their absence. Even his dreams began to fade. He once wanted to travel, to learn, to write, and to grow, but he did nothing. Every day he told himself, "I will do it later." But later never came. Small steps became big walls. The dreams he carried in his heart became small, gray, and heavy. He looked at them sometimes and felt sad. He thought, "I will try tomorrow." But tomorrow was always the same. His home became messy too. He did not clean. He left dishes in the sink. Clothes were on the floor. The room felt heavy, full of dust, full of old things. He did not care about order, about comfort, about space. The small habit of tidying, the small effort to improve his environment, was gone. His space reflected his life, careless, soft, and slowly declining. He was late. He was tired. He did not care. Every day, these 3 words described him. Small mistakes became bigger problems. Being late at work caused stress and tension. Being tired made him miss opportunities. Not caring made him lose friends and respect. Life that once seemed safe now felt fragile. He spent too much time in front of screens. He ignored the small tasks he could do to grow. He wanted comfort, so he avoided learning, avoiding effort, avoiding responsibility. At first, it was easy, but over time, life became harder. Small neglects grew into bigger consequences. Missing a call led to missed opportunities. Ignoring health led to pain. Avoiding friends led to loneliness. Even small daily routines became difficult. He forgot to pay bills on time. He forgot appointments. He forgot simple promises. People began to notice. They asked him, "Are you okay?" He smiled and said, "I am fine," but he was not fine. His small mistakes had grown too big to hide. His mind was tired too. He could not focus. He tried to read a book or learn a skill, but he could not concentrate. His thoughts wandered. He felt heavy, slow, and small. The man who once dreamed of big things now felt trapped in a small, gray life. He remembered the first warnings he had ignored, but he still avoided thinking about them. Sometimes he cried quietly at night. He thought of the chances he had lost. He thought of the people he had ignored. He thought of the dreams he had left behind. But in the morning, he did the same things again. He was late. He was tired. He did not care. He told himself, "Tomorrow will be better." But tomorrow became yesterday, without change. He started to feel fear, too. Fear of failure. Fear of losing more. Fear of being left behind. He tried to cover it with comfort, with food, with videos, with sleep. But fear does not disappear with soft things. Fear grows when it is ignored. And fear began to grow in his heart. Small mistakes became big problems. His health, work, relationships, and dreams were all affected. The man saw it, but he did not act. He believed life would fix itself. He believed he could wait. But waiting only made the problems worse. Each day he ignored the warning signs. The walls around him became taller. One day, his phone rang. It was the bank. A mistake in his account had become a big problem. He had ignored small bills and deadlines. Now, the bank called. Panic ran through him. He had ignored health problems for months. Now, a visit to the doctor showed a serious condition. He had ignored work deadlines. Now, he was in danger of losing his job. Every small action he ignored, every small choice he delayed, had grown into something large. His life was unraveling quietly, slowly, like a thread pulling apart. He could not see where the end would come, but he felt the tension, the pressure, the weight of all the small mistakes finally pressing down. He sat alone, tired and heavy, thinking about what he had done. He wanted to start, but he did not know where. He was late. He was tired. He did not care. The words repeated in his mind like a warning he could not escape. He knew something needed to change, but fear and habit held him back. And then, one small event finally broke him. Something he could no longer ignore, something serious enough to push him out of his comfort and into a crisis. The life he had built from small mistakes was now confronting him with consequences too big to hide. The slow decline had reached its peak, and his world was about to change forever. The breaking point. The man did not notice it at first. but the problems in his life were growing like shadows around him. Every small mistake, every ignored warning, every delayed action had built a wall he could no longer climb. The day began like any other, soft and quiet, but it ended with a weight that pressed on his chest like a heavy stone. This was the moment he could no longer ignore, the breaking point. He arrived at work late again. Not 5 minutes late, not 10, but an hour late. His boss had already called him to the office before he stepped inside. The man knew what was coming, but he hoped, as always, that somehow things would work out. He sat down quietly, his hands shaking slightly. The silence in the room felt loud, full of tension, full of judgment. "You have been late too many times," his boss said. "Your work is incomplete. You are not reliable anymore. I am sorry, but we cannot continue." The words were calm, professional, but they hit him harder than anything before. It was not just a warning this time. It was a consequence. The man felt his stomach tighten, his mind freeze. His job, the small stability he had left, was gone. He walked out of the office slowly. The city felt different that day. The streets were noisy, the sun was too bright, and people were moving fast around him. He had always walked among them like a shadow, unnoticed. But now he felt their eyes, their quiet judgment, even if they did not look at him. Every step felt heavier than the last. At home, he sat alone in silence. He could not eat. He could not watch videos. The comfort of his soft life had disappeared. The apartment felt empty, too quiet, too real. He looked at the objects around him, books unopened, notes unread, plans left to dust. Everything reminded him of the time he wasted. Every day he had delayed, every choice he had ignored, now pressed down on him. He remembered the dreams he once had. He wanted to travel, to learn, to grow, to change. But the life he had created was not that life. He was not the man he imagined. He was not moving forward. Instead, he was stuck in the mistakes he made when he chose comfort over effort. The difference between the life he wanted and the life he had was sharp and painful, like a knife. He thought about his relationships, too. Friends had stopped calling. Family had begun to distance themselves. The man realized that ignoring people, avoiding care, and choosing ease had cost him not only opportunities, but also love and support. He felt a deep sadness, an ache he could not describe. His loneliness was now a mirror reflecting every mistake he had made. He could not sleep that night. His mind replayed every choice, every small decision that had led him here. He remembered the first warning, the email, the lost job, his friend's honest words. He remembered the slow decline, the tired mornings, the missed opportunities, the ignored health and relationships. Everything came together in a painful clarity. He had created his own suffering, slowly, day by day. He tried to remember the man he wanted to be, the man who woke early, worked hard, learned every day, and took care of health and friends. That man felt far away, almost like a stranger. He saw the difference clearly now, the dreams he imagined versus the reality he had made. And the truth was undeniable. He had fallen far. Farther than he wanted to see, farther than he wanted to admit. Tears came quietly at first, then stronger. The man cried for the life he had lost, for the chances he ignored, for the love he did not nurture. He cried for the comfort he had chased so blindly and the cost it had brought. The pain was sharp, but it was also honest. For the first time in many years, he faced himself without excuses, without delay, without avoidance. He thought about his health. His body ached more than before. He had ignored it, and now the warning signs had become serious problems. His tiredness was no longer just mental. It was physical. His strength, which he once took for granted, had faded. He understood clearly that small neglects, repeated every day, had grown into large, undeniable consequences. He looked around his apartment again. Every object, every pile of dust, every note left unfinished was a reminder of the life he had ignored. The walls seemed to lean in on him. He felt the weight of every day, every hour, every minute spent without care, without purpose. The man who wanted to grow, to learn, to live fully, was lost under the life he had built by mistake. In the quiet of the night, he began to reflect. The pain was unbearable, but it also opened his heart. For the first time, he saw clearly the connection between action and consequence, between effort and reward, between carelessness and suffering. He understood that life is not kind to those who wait for it to change. Life rewards those who act, who learn, who care. And he had done none of these. He realized that his mistakes were not only his own, they were lessons. They were signs that life had given him many chances to change before it became serious. Every warning he ignored, every small action he postponed, had been a signal. Now the signals had grown into a crisis he could no longer avoid. The pain of losing his job, of seeing his health and relationships suffer, and of realizing how far he had fallen, became a turning point. It was not just sadness, it was the first spark of understanding, the first real motivation to act. The man could feel it inside him, the possibility of change, the possibility of a new life, but only if he was willing to face the truth. He stayed awake most of the night, thinking about what he could do next. He could not go back in time. The past was gone. But he could begin now. He could begin small. He could take one step, one habit, one action. The pain was the teacher. The crisis was the lesson, and he had finally opened his eyes. By morning, the man felt a strange calm inside him. The weight of failure was still there, heavy and real, but now it had a purpose. It was not only suffering, it was a message. He had reached the breaking point, and the breaking point had opened a door. He did not know exactly how to step through it, but he knew he could not stay where he was. For the first time, he reflected deeply on his life, on his choices, on the consequences of ignoring small warnings. He realized that pain is often the only way to teach a person who does not listen to quiet signals. And now, he could no longer pretend that life would fix itself. He had to act. The heartache, the loss, and the clear contrast between what he wanted and what he had created became the seed for the changes that were about to come. And so, the man faced his reality fully. He saw the truth, felt the pain, and accepted the consequences. This breaking point, harsh as it was, opened his heart to reflection, honesty, and understanding. It prepared him for the next step, a journey of self-discovery and growth that would slowly transform his life, leading him toward the lessons he could no longer ignore. The mirror moment. The man sat alone in his small apartment, the quiet pressing down on him. The silence was heavy, but it was different this time. It did not feel safe like before. It did not feel soft like his comfort days. It felt real, sharp, and honest. For the first time, he could not ignore the truth. He had to look at himself. He went to the mirror. He had not looked closely in weeks, maybe months, He wanted to see only the reflection of the life he imagined, but now he had no choice. He had to see the man he had become. His face looked tired, older than his age, pale and soft from lack of care. His eyes were not bright. They were dull, weighed down by months of easy choices. He studied his hands. They were the same hands he had always used to type, to scroll, to rest. They had not built, not created, not worked toward anything. He thought of all the small opportunities he had touched and ignored. Every time he chose comfort over action, every time he waited instead of moving, his hands had stayed still. Now they looked like silent witnesses to a life he had wasted. He remembered the first warning, the email, the lost job, the kind words of his friend. He remembered the slow decline, the missed chances, the mistakes that became consequences, and he realized something important. No one else had caused this. No one had forced him to sleep too much, to ignore learning, to avoid responsibility. No one had made him waste time. It was all his choice. The thought hurt. It was easier to blame the world before. It was easier to say, if only someone had told me, or if only life were different. But now, looking in the mirror, he understood that blaming others was a lie. The real enemy had been himself, his own habits, his own fears, and his own laziness. Tears came quietly. They rolled down his cheeks as he whispered to himself, "It was me. It was all me." He felt a strange mix of sadness, shame, and relief. Sadness for the life he had lost. Shame for the mistakes he had made. Relief for finally seeing the truth clearly. He did not need anyone else to tell him. He knew now that responsibility had to start with him. He thought about his life before the breaking point. He remembered the soft mornings, the long hours of doing nothing, the false comfort of ignoring the world. He saw how every small choice had grown into something big. The life he wanted was not here. The life he had was a product of small, repeated mistakes. He could no longer pretend otherwise. He looked at the mirror again, this time focusing on his eyes. They were tired, yes, but they were still his. They could still see. They could still act. They could still change. And that was the first hope he felt in weeks. The mirror showed not only what he had lost, but also what he could still become if he chose to act. He remembered blaming others before. He blamed the system, the boss, his friends, the world. He blamed everything that seemed easier than looking inside himself. But that night, he realized how powerless he had been when he refused to take responsibility. Change could only come from one place, from him. He began to think of small steps, not huge plans, not impossible goals, but small actions he could take today. He could wake earlier tomorrow. He could write one page in a notebook. He could call a friend. He could take care of his body. Each action was small, but together they could rebuild what he had lost. He felt a small flame of hope in his chest. He thought about his health. His tired body could recover if he cared for it. He could walk, eat better, rest properly, and slowly regain strength. He thought about learning. He could open a book, practice English, write small notes every day. He thought about relationships. He could apologize, reconnect, and show care. He thought about work. He could start small tasks, complete them, and rebuild trust. Responsibility felt heavy, but it also felt freeing. The man realized that the power to change had always been his, even when he ignored it. He remembered all the times he had wanted life to be easier. Now he understood that the easy life had cost him far more than he imagined. But he also understood that responsibility gave him the power to rebuild. He sat longer in front of the mirror. He repeated quietly, "I am responsible. I will change. It is up to me." The words felt strange at first, but they slowly sank into his heart. He felt a new kind of energy, a quiet strength. For the first time, he was not afraid to face himself. He was not afraid to admit his mistakes, and he was ready to act. He thought about the difference between blaming others and taking responsibility. Blaming made life feel easy in the moment, but it created weakness. Taking responsibility was hard at first, but it created strength, courage, and growth. The man wanted that strength now. He wanted to rebuild, to grow, and to live a life he could respect. The reflection in the mirror became a guide. He did not see perfection. He did not see a perfect life. He saw a man who had made mistakes, yes, but also a man who could choose differently. He felt a spark inside him, the first spark of real motivation in a long time. It was quiet, but it was alive. He finally understood that his life could change only if he acted. The enemy was not outside. It was not luck, not other people, not circumstances. The enemy was his inaction, his habits, his fear. And if he could face that, if he could accept responsibility, he could also face life and begin to change it. That night, he did not sleep immediately. He wrote small notes in a notebook he had ignored for months. He wrote what he wanted to do tomorrow, the day after, and the week ahead. He wrote simple steps: wake early, walk for 10 minutes, call a friend, read a page. Each small action felt like a key turning in a lock. The lock of his comfort and avoidance was slowly opening. By the early morning, he felt calm, clear, and focused. The mirror moment had done its work. He understood the truth. He had seen himself honestly. He had felt the weight of his mistakes, and he had begun to take responsibility. The man who once blamed others now knew he could no longer hide. The journey of change had begun. The first small decisions would be simple, but they would be real. He could feel it in his chest. He could feel the energy returning slowly, like the sun rising over a quiet city. The mirror had shown him who he was, and it had shown him who he could become. For the first time in a long time, he believed that growth was possible, and with that belief, he was ready to take the first steps toward the life he truly wanted. The hard first steps. The man woke early the next morning. It was not easy. His bed was soft, warm, and inviting. Every part of him wanted to stay under the blanket. But he remembered the mirror moment. He remembered the life he had lost, and the life he wanted. He told himself, "I must start. I must try." Slowly, he sat up and stepped out of bed. He began with small steps. The first step was simple: wash his face, brush his teeth, and drink water. It seemed easy, but it felt heavy. His body was not used to moving early. His mind was not used to focus. He stumbled a little, moved slowly, and even thought about going back to bed. But he took a deep breath and said, "I am doing it. One step at a time." Next, he opened a book. It was small, simple, easy to read. He wanted to learn English, so he chose short sentences, short stories. His eyes tired quickly. He forgot some words. He had to read the same line again, again, again. He felt frustrated. He wanted to stop. But he remembered the difference between his old self and his new self. His old self would stop. His new self would try. Slowly, he read. Slowly, he learned. After reading, he practiced writing. He wrote simple sentences. I wake early. I drink water. I read books. I learn English. He wrote slowly, carefully. Sometimes he made mistakes. Sometimes he erased the words and started again. But he kept writing. Each word was a small step toward change. Each sentence was a small victory. Then he practiced speaking. He read the sentences aloud. I wake early. I drink water. I read books. I learn English. At first, his voice was soft. His pronunciation was not perfect. He stumbled on words, but he repeated the sentences many times. Again, he said. Again. His voice grew stronger. His confidence grew slowly, step by step. The man also moved his body. He walked in the morning sun, 10 minutes at first, then 15, then 20. Each step felt heavy. His legs were tired. His body wanted to stop. But he remembered the mirror moment. He remembered that strength comes from action. Slowly, he walked. Slowly, he built strength. Slowly, he changed his body. At work, he tried to improve too. He arrived on time. Sometimes he was late, but he tried again. He checked emails carefully. He finished small tasks before starting bigger ones. His boss noticed small improvements and smiled. Good, his boss said. Keep trying. The man smiled too, but inside he felt proud. Small actions were becoming small wins. He also reached out to a friend. He called someone he had ignored before. At first, the conversation was short and awkward, but he listened carefully. He showed care. He asked simple questions. How are you? What is new? Can I help? The friend smiled. They talked for a few minutes. The man felt warmth he had not felt in months. Small steps in relationships could bring small happiness. Each day was not easy. Some days he failed. He woke late. He forgot to read. He skipped walking. He lost patience while speaking. He felt tired. He felt weak. He felt like his old self again. But he remembered something. Change is slow. Mistakes are part of learning. Failure is part of growth. He did not give up. He tried again. He tried again. He tried again. He noticed the difference between his old self and his new self. The old self avoided effort. The old self stayed in bed. The old self watched videos all day. The old self said, later, tomorrow, it is too hard. The new self woke early. The new self read books. The new self practiced English. The new self moved, spoke, and tried. Step by step, day by day, he became stronger. He repeated simple habits: wake early, read, write, speak, move, work, care. He repeated them many times. The repetition felt boring sometimes, but it was powerful. Each repetition built strength. Each repetition built courage. Each repetition built a new life, small but steady. At night, he wrote a small note about the day. He wrote what he did, what he learned, what he failed, and what he would do tomorrow. Writing helped him see progress. Writing reminded him that small actions could lead to change. Writing became a habit too, a small step toward growth. He also reflected on feelings. When he felt tired or sad, he thought, "This is normal. I am learning. I will try again." He did not blame the world. He did not blame others. He accepted responsibility. He accepted that growth is hard, but it is possible. He was learning to be patient with himself. Weeks passed slowly. Each day was small, but the small days became big. The man felt changes in his body, his mind, and his heart. He felt more awake. He felt more focused. He felt more alive. He still made mistakes, but each mistake was a lesson, not a failure. He began to feel hope, small and gentle, but real. The contrast between the old self and the new self became clear. The old self was weak, tired, careless, and passive. The new self was active, learning, growing, and responsible. Each small action showed him what he could achieve. Each small habit gave him energy, confidence, and purpose. The man realized that change is not fast. It is slow, like water shaping a rock. Small actions, repeated every day, create big differences. He understood that mistakes will happen, but effort must continue. Step by step, habit by habit, he could rebuild his life. By the end of the week, he smiled quietly, not because everything was perfect, but because he had tried. He had taken the hard first steps. He had failed, learned, and tried again. He had built new habits, small but strong. He had started to feel hope, a soft but real hope that life could be different, that he could grow, that he could become the man he once dreamed of being. And so, the journey continued. The hard first steps were only the beginning, but with every repetition, every small choice, every action, he moved forward. He moved closer to the life he wanted. And with hope now rising in his heart, he prepared for the next stage of his journey, where the small habits would turn into real change and real growth. Small wins, big hope. The man woke early again, but this time it felt different. The bed was still soft, and the morning was still quiet, but he felt a small energy inside. It was not big or loud. It was gentle, almost like a tiny flame flickering in his chest. He smiled quietly to himself. Yesterday, he had taken hard steps. Today, he would see small rewards. He started with simple habits. He walked in the morning sun, feeling his legs grow stronger. He read a short story in English and understood more than the day before. He wrote a few sentences about his day, correcting mistakes he had made in the past. Each small action felt lighter now. Each small step built confidence he had never felt before. At work, he arrived early. His manager noticed. "Good to see you on time today," the manager said. The words were simple, but they made the man feel proud. He realized that punctuality was not just about being on time. It was about respect, responsibility, and trust. Small actions like this were beginning to change how others saw him and how he saw himself. He finished a task he had been avoiding for weeks. It was a small task, a simple report, but completing it felt huge. He felt relief, satisfaction, and a sense of achievement. He had resisted it before. He had made excuses, postponed it, ignored it. But now, doing it gave him courage. He understood that small wins are not small at all. They are the foundation of bigger success. His English practice improved too. Yesterday, he struggled with pronunciation. Today, he spoke clearly and confidently, even reading aloud in front of a mirror. He noticed the difference in his voice. He felt stronger, more capable. Simple words repeated many times had created progress. Small effort, repeated every day, was creating big change. He called a friend he had lost contact with. The friend answered warmly, surprised but happy to hear from him. "It's good to hear your voice," the friend said. "I missed our talks." The man felt warmth in his chest. A simple call, a few kind words, had rebuilt a connection. He realized that small actions in relationships, checking in, listening, caring, can create big hope and repair trust over time. During lunch, he walked outside instead of staying on his phone. He noticed people smiling at him as he passed. He smiled back, small but genuine. The world felt softer, more welcoming. His small habit of walking and noticing beauty brought him joy. He saw that change is not always about grand gestures. Small moments, repeated often, create a better life. He even tried helping a neighbor. A woman struggled with her groceries, and he offered to carry them. She thanked him with a warm smile. He realized how good it felt to act kindly, to help without expectation. Small acts of kindness created small happiness, which grew into hope. He remembered the days when he ignored people, avoided effort, and chose comfort. Now, each small action built a new habit and a new life. At home, he completed a personal project he had started weeks ago. It was small, a notebook full of notes, practice exercises, and short reflections, but finishing it gave him pride. He could see progress in his own hands. The notebook became a symbol. Small effort, repeated daily, creates visible results. The man smiled at his reflection in the mirror. Yesterday he was weak. Today he was growing. Even his health showed small improvements. Walking every morning, eating carefully, and drinking water regularly made him feel lighter. His tired body was slowly recovering. He noticed energy returning to his arms, his legs, and his mind. Small habits, repeated consistently, had started to transform him. He realized that growth is never sudden. It is gradual, built step by step. The man reflected on these small wins. Each one seemed tiny alone. A kind word, finishing a task, speaking clearly, walking in the sun, helping someone. But together, they created hope. Together, they built momentum. He felt his heart lift, a small but strong feeling that life could be better. The weak, tired man of the past was becoming someone who could act, learn, and grow. He also noticed the contrast clearly. Before, he avoided effort. Before, he blamed others. Before, he waited for life to change. Now, he acted, took responsibility, and moved forward. Small wins showed him that change is possible and that progress comes from simple actions done consistently. The man understood that success is not about big leaps. It is about small steps, repeated daily, that add up to real transformation. At night, he wrote in his notebook again. This time, he recorded the small wins, finishing a task, calling a friend, speaking English clearly, walking in the sun, helping a neighbor. Each note brought a smile. Each note reminded him that he was capable of change. Each note gave him hope for tomorrow. He realized that hope grows from action. Small wins create confidence, and confidence creates courage. Courage allows someone to rebuild not just a day, but a life. The man understood that he could not rely on luck or comfort anymore. He had to act, one small step at a time, every day, and it worked. He felt alive again. He thought of the future, not as something far away, but as something he could shape today. Each morning, each choice, each effort became a building block. He imagined the man he wanted to be: strong, capable, kind, responsible. He could see that vision becoming real because he had learned the power of small wins. By the end of the week, he felt something he had not felt for a long time: excitement for the day ahead. He could not control everything, but he could control his actions. Each small success made him believe in the possibility of bigger achievements. Hope, he realized, is built from repeated small victories. The weak, tired, and passive man of the past was still there, in memory, but he was no longer the same. He had learned that effort leads to growth, that responsibility leads to power, and that small steps lead to big change. The man felt ready to rebuild more completely, to take larger steps, and to create the life he had once dreamed of. And so, with small wins behind him and hope growing in his heart, he prepared for the next stage of his journey. The path ahead was still challenging, but now he knew that step by step, habit by habit, he could rebuild completely. Small wins had created big hope, and big hope would give him the courage to transform his life. Rebuilding the life. The man woke early, as always. But now waking early felt natural, not heavy. He felt the sun on his face, the cool morning air, and a small smile appeared. He remembered the old life, soft and easy, full of mistakes and neglect. Now each day was a choice, a step toward building something strong. He was rebuilding his life, piece by piece. He started with small routines. He washed, ate a simple healthy breakfast, and walked outside. Every step felt purposeful. Before, he had walked only to avoid thinking. Now, he walked to strengthen his body and mind. Each step was a reminder: life is created by action, not by waiting. He repeated this every morning, slowly making it a habit he could not break. He worked with focus. At his job, he did not rush or delay. He completed tasks carefully and asked questions when he needed to learn. Mistakes still happened sometimes, but he faced them calmly. Instead of panicking, he corrected errors and moved forward. Each problem became a lesson. Each challenge became a chance to grow stronger and wiser. At home, he organized his space. Old clutter was removed. Surfaces were clean. The apartment felt lighter, calmer, and brighter. He realized that a clean space reflected a clear mind. He arranged books on a shelf, notes on his desk, and tools in order. Each small act of discipline made him feel stronger. The man understood that building a strong life begins with small, intentional actions. He continued to learn English every day. Reading, writing, speaking, and listening became part of his daily routine. He read simple stories, wrote short paragraphs, and repeated sentences aloud. At first, mistakes came often, but he did not give up. Slowly, his English improved. Each small improvement gave him confidence. Each step forward was proof that consistency creates real progress. He also repaired relationships. He apologized to friends he had ignored. He listened more, asked questions, and offered help. People noticed his change. They smiled, called back, and began trusting him again. He felt warmth and connection return to his life. The man realized that love and care are built slowly, just like habits, and must be maintained every day. Health became a priority. He exercised regularly, ate well, and rested enough. His body grew stronger, his mind clearer. He felt energy return to parts of himself he had forgotten. Pain and fatigue were not gone entirely, but he managed them calmly. The small steps of daily discipline created a stronger, healthier body, and with it, a stronger spirit. He reflected on mistakes from the past. Instead of blaming himself or feeling shame, he took action to fix them. Unpaid bills were managed. Tasks were completed. Promises were kept. Slowly, the broken parts of his life became whole. Discipline, action, and patience were the tools he used. He learned that rebuilding requires effort, but effort produces freedom and peace. His mind became calmer, too. Challenges no longer caused panic. Problems were met with thought and planning. He asked himself simple questions. What is the problem? What can I do today? What step is small but possible? Answering these questions helped him move forward every day. Before, he had avoided challenges. Now he faced them with strength and clarity. Each day, he reviewed progress. He noted small wins, a task completed, a kind word spoken, a walk taken, a page read. These notes reminded him that growth is slow but real. He learned to appreciate small steps, understanding that small wins build a strong life. The contrast was clear. Before, life was weak, broken, and passive. Now, life was active, intentional, and strong. Over time, the man felt a deep satisfaction. He saw his reflection in the mirror not with shame, but with pride. The face was still human, still imperfect, but it was alive, alert, and ready. Every wrinkle, every tired line reminded him of lessons learned and strength gained. He had transformed a life of mistakes into a life of action and purpose. He continued to take risks in small ways. He spoke up at work, suggested ideas, and accepted feedback calmly. He practiced English with friends, even when he felt nervous. He asked for help when needed. He faced each day with patience, understanding that mistakes were part of learning. The broken man of the past would have avoided these challenges, but now he welcomed them as opportunities. His daily routine became a strong foundation. Wake early, move, learn, work, help others, reflect. The repetition of these actions built resilience. The man saw clearly that discipline is freedom. Each day of effort made the next day easier, stronger, and more meaningful. The weak habits of comfort, laziness, and avoidance were replaced by strength, purpose, and care. He noticed hope growing steadily. He had learned that change is slow but possible. Small actions repeated every day create transformation. The man felt grateful for the lessons he had learned, even the painful ones. Each failure, each small mistake had led him to understanding, awareness, and discipline. He knew he could never take life for granted again. By evening, he sat quietly, reflecting on the day. He had accomplished small wins, a completed task, a call made, a lesson learned, a kind act done. Each victory, though small, built momentum. He could feel it in his body, mind, and heart. Life that was once broken was now steady. Life that was once weak was now strong. He realized that rebuilding is not about a single moment. It is about many small steps taken consistently, guided by responsibility, awareness, and care. Each day shapes the next. Each choice matters. The man felt a quiet joy, knowing that he could continue to grow, continue to learn, and continue to build a life that was meaningful and strong. The contrast was now undeniable. The life of comfort, mistakes, and avoidance was behind him. The life of discipline, learning, and action was here. The broken life he had left behind taught him lessons, and the new life he was building reflected strength, clarity, and hope. As he prepared to sleep, he felt peace. The journey of rebuilding was ongoing, but he had the tools, habits, and mindset to continue. The broken man of the past was gone, replaced by someone ready to face the world, ready to learn, ready to act. The next step would be reflection, understanding what he had lost and what he had gained. And with this understanding, he would prepare to grow even further, leading him into the next stage of his journey. The lesson learned late. The man sat quietly in his room, the evening light soft on the walls. He thought about everything that had happened, the long years of comfort, the small mistakes, the warnings he ignored, the slow decline, and the breaking point. He thought about the pain, the loneliness, and the shame. And he thought about the changes he had made, the small wins, the habits, and the strength he had built. He realized something important. He had learned the truth late. He had wasted years avoiding effort, avoiding responsibility, and avoiding life itself. He remembered the old days, sleeping too long, ignoring work, avoiding friends, and not caring for himself. He saw clearly how these choices had created a broken life, and he felt regret. The regret was heavy, sharp, and real, but as he looked closer, he saw something else. The regret was not the end. He had started to change. He had built new habits. He had learned, acted, and cared. The life he was building now was stronger than the life he had lost. He realized that learning late is better than never learning. The past cannot be changed, but today he could act. He thought of the lessons he had learned. Small actions create big results. Responsibility is the key to growth, and discipline builds strength. He remembered the mirror moment when he first faced himself honestly. He remembered the first hard steps when walking, reading, and speaking English felt impossible. He remembered small wins when simple acts brought hope and confidence. He understood the full meaning of his journey. Life had given him many warnings, but he had ignored them. Life had shown him the consequences of comfort and laziness. He had suffered because of his mistakes, but he had also grown stronger because he faced them. The lesson was clear. Learning is always possible, but it must be acted on. He reflected on regret. Regret comes from knowing what could have been. It comes from seeing opportunities wasted and time lost. He felt it deeply. He could have started earlier, worked harder, learned more, and cared for others sooner. But regret alone changes nothing. He knew that. Feeling sorry without action keeps life broken. Action creates hope. Action creates change. He thought of hope. Hope is different from regret. Hope grows when small wins happen, when new habits form, when progress is seen. He felt hope now, real hope, because he was acting. Each step he took today, each choice to improve, built hope for tomorrow. He saw that even late lessons acted upon could transform life. He compared the past and present. The past was weak, passive, and careless. The past ignored warnings and wasted time. The present was active, responsible, and disciplined. The present faced challenges calmly, repaired mistakes, and built strength. The contrast was clear, and it gave him clarity. Life does not end with mistakes. Life grows with lessons learned, even if learned late. He thought about the future. He could not undo the past, but he could shape the next moments. He could continue small actions, wake early, learn, help others, care for health, practice English, and face challenges. Each small choice built a new reality. The lesson learned late had become a guide for life. He understood that every day is a chance to grow, no matter what has been lost. He felt gratitude for the journey. Pain had taught him strength. Mistakes had taught him responsibility. Loss had taught him clarity. Regret had taught him humility. Small wins had taught him hope. Each step, even the painful ones, had prepared him to understand the most important truth. Change is always possible, and today is always a new beginning. He smiled quietly. The weight of regret remained, but it was lighter. It was a teacher, not a prison. He had learned the lesson late, but learning it late had not stopped him. It had motivated him. It had guided him. He saw clearly that the time he had wasted could not return. but the time he had now could create a future he could be proud of. He thought about the man he was before. He had wanted comfort. He had avoided effort. He had ignored responsibility. That man was gone. The man he had become faced life honestly, acted daily, learned constantly, and built small wins that became real growth. The transformation was not sudden, but it was real and strong. He realized the importance of awareness. Life gives chances, but they are often quiet and easy to miss. Warnings, opportunities, guidance, all must be noticed and acted upon. He had ignored them for years, but now he could not ignore them. Awareness, combined with action, is the key to change. He understood that clearly now. He thought about the power of small steps. One page read, one task completed, one kind word spoken, one early morning. These small actions, repeated over time, had rebuilt his life. He realized that it is never too late for small steps. Even late action can create a strong, meaningful life. The lesson was simple, but powerful. Act today, no matter how late it feels. He reflected on courage, facing mistakes, taking responsibility, and acting despite fear or discomfort required courage. He had learned this courage late, but it was now part of him. Each day, each small action strengthened his courage. Courage allowed him to face challenges calmly and fix mistakes. Courage created a path forward where regret could not dominate. He thought about hope again. Hope is not passive. Hope is action. Hope is the result of small wins, consistency, and learning from mistakes. He had seen hope grow within him because he acted every day. He realized that regret without action is empty, but hope with action is powerful. Even learning late, hope can grow if effort begins today. He sat quietly, reflecting on the contrast between regret and hope. Regret shows what was lost. Hope shows what can be gained. Regret binds the past. Hope opens the future. He understood this deeply. His late lesson had transformed regret into hope. He could see clearly that life is a gift, even when lessons come late. He made a quiet promise to himself. He would continue learning, acting, and growing. He would take responsibility every day. He would face challenges calmly and repair mistakes. He would cherish small wins and build new habits. The lesson learned late was now his guide, a compass pointing toward growth, strength, and hope. As night came, he looked at his reflection. He saw a man who had faced pain, mistakes, and weakness. He also saw a man who had learned, acted, and grown. The regret of the past was balanced by the hope of today. He understood that life is never too late to change, never too late to build strength, never too late to create a meaningful life. And with this understanding, he felt ready for the final step, to share his journey, to embrace the full meaning of his experiences, and to inspire a life lived intentionally, with courage, hope, and consistent action. The lesson learned late had prepared him for the final message, a message of hope and motivation that could guide anyone, anywhere, to act today, no matter the past. A new beginning. The man woke up before the sun, as he had done for many weeks now. The soft light of morning filled his room, and he breathed deeply, feeling alive. The life he once thought was permanent, comfortable, easy, and safe, was gone. It had been replaced by a life of action, learning, and responsibility. He looked around and saw the results of his effort: the organized room, the neat desk, the notebook full of practice, the clean floor. Every detail reminded him of the small steps he had taken, one day at a time. He dressed quickly and walked outside. The air was fresh, the streets quiet, and the world seemed new. He noticed people passing by, smiling at him, and he smiled back. This simple act of connection, small but intentional, felt powerful. He remembered the days when he avoided others, when he stayed in his room and ignored friends. Those days seemed distant now, like a dream from another life. He realized how small actions, waking early, speaking kindly, noticing the world, could change not only his life, but also the lives of those around him. He walked to the small park near his apartment. The grass was green, wet with morning dew, and the sun peeked over the horizon. He stopped and breathed deeply again. The man felt grateful, not for comfort or ease, but for learning, growth, and action. Every struggle, every failure, and every regret had led him to this moment. He thought quietly to himself, "I learned late, but I learned, and it is not too late to keep growing." He sat on a bench and opened his notebook. Inside were the small victories he had recorded: waking early, reading, speaking English, completing tasks, helping friends. Each small win, repeated day by day, had built his confidence, his hope, and his life. He smiled at the simplicity of it. Real change does not happen in a single day. Real change happens in repeated small actions. A few minutes of learning, a kind word, or a step outside of comfort can grow into a life transformed. He thought about his journey, the life of comfort, the first warning, the slow decline, the breaking point, the mirror moment, the hard first steps, the small wins, and the rebuilding. Each stage had taught him something valuable. Pain had taught him clarity. Mistakes had taught him responsibility. Discipline had taught him freedom. Hope had taught him courage. The man understood that life is not about avoiding mistakes. It is about learning from them and acting. He reflected on his English learning journey too. At first, he had struggled with small words, simple sentences, and slow reading. He had stumbled over pronunciation and forgotten vocabulary often. But through patience, repetition, and practice, he had improved. He realized that the lessons in life were similar. Small, repeated actions create mastery, whether in language, work, or personal growth. Learning, like life, is a daily choice. He watched a child playing nearby, laughing freely and running without fear. The child reminded him of the joy he had lost when he avoided effort and hid in comfort. He wanted to feel that joy again. He understood that happiness is not given, it is created. It is created through responsibility, action, and growth. And now, he felt it returning, slowly but surely, because he had taken steps, faced challenges, and learned lessons the hard way. He thought about the people he had ignored, the relationships he had neglected, and the mistakes he had made. He realized that repair is possible, even late. A simple apology, a kind act, or a conversation could rebuild trust and connection. He felt determined to continue these efforts. Life is full of opportunities to act, to learn, to give, and to grow. Waiting for the perfect moment only wastes time. Today is always the right moment. He smiled and spoke softly to himself. Do not wait. Start today. Learn now, not later. The words felt simple, yet powerful. He understood that everyone has the power to change. The past may be filled with mistakes, but the present is a gift. Every morning is a chance to take a step, to learn, to act, and to grow. Life can change not in big leaps, but in small, repeated actions every day. He remembered the mirror moment and how he had faced himself honestly. The reflection he saw then was filled with regret and shame. The reflection now was different. It was alert, aware, and ready. Mistakes were not erased, but lessons had been learned. Weakness had been replaced with action. Comfort had been replaced with discipline. The man realized that facing himself honestly had been the key. Change begins with awareness, and awareness leads to action. He thought about hope again. Hope is not passive. Hope is the result of learning, acting, and growing, even slowly. He felt that hope now, solid and steady, like a quiet flame that will not go out. The small wins, the repeated actions, the efforts to rebuild, had all created this hope. And with hope came courage, determination, and a clear path forward. The man knew that life could be lived fully, with purpose and joy, if he continued to act every day. He took out a small English book from his bag and began to read aloud. Simple sentences, repeated phrases, familiar words, but now spoken with confidence and clarity. He realized that learning English, like rebuilding life, requires patience and persistence. One step, one word, one action at a time can create progress. He smiled at the thought that small habits, practiced daily, could transform not only his language skills, but also his life. He walked home slowly, noticing details around him, the sound of birds, the warmth of the sun, the faces of people passing by. He realized that life is full of lessons if we pay attention. Every interaction, every choice, and every action is an opportunity to learn. He thought about the man he was before, the one who ignored warnings and avoided effort, and felt a quiet gratitude for the journey. Pain had taught him wisdom. Mistakes had taught him humility. Effort had taught him strength. At home, he reflected one last time before bed. He thought of all the people who might be watching, listening, or learning from stories like his. He wanted to share a simple truth. Do not wait. Life is too short to postpone learning, growth, and action. Every day offers a chance to take a small step that can lead to big change. Mistakes are lessons, not chains. Every small action builds a new life, and every choice shapes the future. He sat quietly, breathing deeply, feeling calm and ready. The man had faced failure, pain, and regret. He had learned late, but he had not given up. He had rebuilt his life through small, consistent steps. He had learned responsibility, discipline, and patience. And he had found hope, courage, and joy. The journey was ongoing, but he was prepared, aware, and motivated to continue. Finally, he spoke softly, as if to the world, to himself, and to anyone who might listen. Start today. Do not wait. Learn now, act now, care now. Each small step you take builds your life. Each small action creates hope. Each choice can change your future. He smiled, feeling the truth of his own words in his heart. He looked at the night sky from his window. The stars were small but bright, each one shining steadily in the darkness. They reminded him of his journey. Small actions, repeated consistently, create light in life. Even if lessons come late, even if mistakes have been many, the light of hope, learning, and action can shine at any time. He felt that light growing within him, strong, steady, and eternal. The man closed his eyes and whispered, "Today is the start. Every day is a chance. Every small step matters." He felt peace, clarity, and determination. His life was no longer defined by regret or comfort. It was defined by action, learning, and hope. He had discovered the most important truth. It is never too late to rebuild, to learn, to grow, and to create a meaningful life. And with that, he embraced the new beginning fully, ready to live each day with purpose, courage, and small but powerful actions that would shape a life filled with hope, strength,